So I suspect the manager is going to get a lot of hate this week because of the words he says to our main lead here, essentially saying that the hug was just a friendship hug. But I really like what they're doing with the manager's character. It's one of the most intriguing things in this season for me because you really have to look at it from his perspective here, and I thought this episode did a really good job of this, of really showcasing why he's acting the way he is. I mean, the episode has a pretty powerful moment where he tells our lead that she doesn't know him, and that absolutely crushes her. And I love what this does for the episode, because it sets it up to really establish why he's so bound and bent on pushing this girl away, because if you really look at this is a guy who clearly thinks he failed at life. Obviously, his son can't live with him. He split up with his mother there, so obviously he can't even be with his family, so he feels like he's failed there. Obviously, he feels like his job isn't as successful as, say, his book writer friend, who, obviously, he has the same passion for literature, but maybe he couldn't become a published author similar to his friend. So there's so many ways that he feels like he's failed. You look at his apartment, everything's unfinished. It just feels like, at least in his eyes, based on what we know of him, that everything that he touches, it fails. He failed at his youthful love. He failed at his career, even though I would argue that he has a successful restaurant, but you can understand why he feels so bound and bent to push this girl away who keeps trying to come into his life further and further. When you feel like you've wasted your life, all your precious youthful years are down the drain, and you have nothing really to show for it, in comes this girl who still has a bright future ahead of her, and there's so many ways that this could go wrong that could end his restaurant. People could look at this relationship and say, wow, what kind of a scumbag runs a restaurant and forces his employees to date him? We're not going to come here anymore, shut the place down. There's so many ways that this could go horribly wrong, and yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's ways this relationship could flourish, but you understand why he's so bound and bent and pushing her away and saying, you don't know me, I'm a failure, even though you think you see so much greatness in me, I don't see it, and you have a bright future ahead of yourself, don't waste it on me. You can absolutely understand why he's so bound and bent on pushing her away, but in this episode, there's a moment where he just breaks free of that mentality, and he hugs our main character and embraces the love that he's feeling inside his heart. But of course, he is going to play it off as, oh no, that was just as a friend. It's just a kind of like a funny relief moment for us, the viewer, and yes, it allows for the series to be extended because they're still in the will they, won't they, but it makes sense for his character. This isn't just like the typical rom-coms where you have the dense high school character. He knows that this girl has affection for him, but he's trying to convince himself that she's just blinded because she's young and doesn't truly understand her own feelings, because why would she want to waste her life on him? I like this as a motivator. This is very interesting, it's very intriguing, and I really like how they're playing with the manager. I'm glad that they're not in a relationship right now. He still has growing to do. He still doesn't trust in himself, and I don't think he should be in a relationship until he can accept that he has something to offer other people, and I just really enjoyed that. I thought it was a very interesting motivator for this episode, seeing him get sick and then our main character coming over, crying and breaking down. There were so many painful moments, but also very sweet moments in this episode, with also some decent comedy here and there as well. And I just like what they're doing between the two's relationship. We definitely have seen a lot of progression, and I thought that hug was just absolutely beautiful, and the music as well was pretty spot on to really amplify these scenes. And I know a lot of people are going to brush this aside being like, oh my god, he's so dense, pushing her away, but you have to really look at it from his perspective. It could go wrong in so many ways, and the only few things that he has left in his life could be taken away if it goes wrong. Of course he's going to try to push away. On top, he's thinking about her future as well. He doesn't want her to waste her life like he feels like he's wasted his. And that's a perfect setup for this relationship, but I'm really interested to see where it's going to go by the time this season wraps up. This is an absolutely beautiful series, absolutely just captivates me every single week. It has my heart just pulled every single week, and I just think it just overall knows how to make these character interactions very interesting, very unique, and just make this series stick out, not just from the season, but like I said earlier in these reviews, I think this is going to be one of the best anime of the year if it keeps up the quality, and currently it's been keeping up that quality. I don't have too much more to say past that here. I really enjoyed this episode. I love that scene when they're in the apartment and she's kind of like crossing her arms, putting her head on the table and just crying her eyes out pretty much. And I love how they directed it with just the shift in art style and things like that. When that hug happened, it was just like beautiful. But to be expected, of course, he's going to play it off as like, you know, it has to be a friendship hug there because he can't trust in himself just yet. But obviously, as the show goes on, I think we're going to start seeing him open up more and more, and that's when that's going to happen. But I have to say, voice actors definitely hit it out of the park here this week. But let me know your thoughts. What did you think of this episode here? Like I said, I don't have too much to say past this, but it was a phenomenal episode. But you just can't be hating on Mr. Kondo because seriously, he has his reasons, and if you've looked past these 7 episodes here, you absolutely understand where he's coming from here. here. But let me know your thoughts. What was your favorite moment? I'm pretty sure most people's favorite moment is going to be that hug. But if you have a different one, let me know down in that comment section below. And before you leave, smack that like button, share your support. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.